Hey there, it's been a rough week here in the United States. The Minneapolis, Minnesota murder of George Floyd by a group of police officers has served to remind the world just how evil my country can be. I'm not real big on expressing emotion on this channel, and I'm pretty sure you don't need another entitled white man telling you how outraged he is. Instead, I'd like to make a simple dollars and cents argument about policing and city management that I believe needs to be made much more strenuously. I would expect that much of my international audience is hearing about Minneapolis for the first time. But for me, and I would assume a lot of people like me, it's surprising to hear and think of Minneapolis in terms of out-of-control police thugs and burning strip malls. The cities of the American Midwest, a geographical designation you can argue about for decades, have not had the best half-century. Deindustrialization, white flight, and the related flood of population moving south and west has left many cities as shells of their former selves. When I hear about race riots or police savagery in places like Cincinnati, Ohio, or St. Louis, Missouri, my reaction is outrage, of course, but not exactly surprise. These are poor and poorly run places, and poverty often leads to crisis. Minneapolis used to have a better reputation. For at least a decade, it's been one of those places like Portland, Oregon, or Austin, Texas, that coastal professionals dream about moving to. Heck, if the winters weren't so cold, I'd consider moving there too. The Twin Cities are regularly singled out by publications like the New York Times for having the right balance of jobs, affordability, and culture. I have friends and cousins who love living there. It's important to realize that this happy reputation is the result of decades of hard work. Business people, government officials, and everyday citizens have carefully crafted a beautiful city with a great reputation. All of that has been torn down by an out-of-control police department in a single week. Derek Chauvin, his accomplices, and the Minnesota establishment that enabled him have created a situation that is affecting the entire country. But Minneapolis will always be remembered as the place that kicked things off. How many more businesses are going to want to relocate to America's new racism capital? How have Ferguson, Missouri and Baltimore, Maryland been doing 6 years after murderous cops made those cities world famous? It's rough out there for a mid-sized American city in the 21st century. Our current economy seems to only have space for a handful of winners. Up until last Monday, it looked like Minneapolis was one of those winners. But Minneapolis screwed up. It failed to tame its out-of-control police department, and this crisis looks like it's going to set the whole region back decades. From the 1970s to the 1990s, the United States dealt with a massive crime wave. It drove us all a little insane. Under the leadership of people like Rudy Giuliani and Bill Clinton, every city in the country established larger, more heavily armed, and terrifyingly intrusive police forces. A culture of warrior policing arose, and city governments and constitutional lawyers all over the country chose to get out of its way. Now, some argue that this aggressive policing culture led to success. I tend to think that authoritarian policing was a lot less important than things like video games, taking the lead out of our air, and the aging out of the very violent baby boomer generation. Regardless, it's indisputable that the late 20th century crime wave is over. Almost every category of crime has fallen dramatically since the 1990s, almost everywhere in the country. Yes, including Chicago, Blair. Long after crime rates began to fall, the militarization of our police forces continued to intensify. Police forces have become rogue, violent forces in our society with their own flag and their own horrifying symbols. Their special status has been enshrined in law. 16 states, including Minnesota, have enacted Police Bill of Rights laws that shield them from any accountability for what they do. The steady expansion of the doctrine of qualified immunity means that police officers can pretty much do what they want, free of consequences. Whether you think the era of the thug cop was necessary or not, the NYPD has been kind enough to repeatedly demonstrate that it is no longer necessary. In 2013, they warned everybody that the court-mandated end of their stop and frisk policy would lead to chaos on the streets and skyrocketing crime. Instead, the policy ended, and 7 years later, New York City crime rates are all the way back down to like 1950s levels. In 2019, the NYPD threw a hissy fit when one of their number finally lost his job for killing Eric Garner all the way back in 2014. They reacted with the latest in a series of policing slowdowns they had been carrying out over the past 5 years. These slowdowns demonstrate something very interesting. When arrests for minor offenses call, so do major crimes. The New York police have repeatedly demonstrated that they are not as important as they think they are. A city as big and wealthy as New York can afford to maintain a system of brutal over-policing. Unfortunately, many of the billionaires and millionaires that live here prefer it that way. People probably aren't going to stop wanting to move here. But Minneapolis cannot afford it. In the space of just 1 week, their brutal system of policing went from a very debatable asset to an extraordinary liability. Out-of-control policing is probably the greatest threat to the reputational and economic futures of every mid-sized American city. As good as it feels to focus on Derek Chauvin, the police officer that somehow managed to keep his job in the face of 17 separate complaints, we need to focus on the system that kept employing him. It's vital that individual police officers be fired and prosecuted, but the whole system of policing needs to be reined back in. This keeps not happening. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey supposedly ran on police accountability, but he ended up jacking up the police department budget. When he tried to cancel some of the department's violent, fear-based training, the police union stepped in to keep the program going. The murder of George Floyd is a result of this culture. Police departments all over the country have carved out or been given an extreme level of autonomy. Any city that wants to control its own future has got to claw that power back. If they don't, they risk becoming the next international symbol of racism. This is a lesson that should have been learned after Ferguson back in 2014. I hope that the country's mayors and city council people are learning that lesson now. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the bell next to the subscribe button to get a notification whenever I upload a new video. Thanks.